Let's just sing.
Recording in progress.
Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie.
Thank you, Cantor Josh. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is good to see all the generations of our community gathered this evening, wherever you may be. I know some of you have already left for warmer places, but we are together as one community this evening, sending you a heart tap from Temple Beth Elohim itself, and hoping that you are all well and healthy and ready to welcome Shabbat, this special time when we can tune into a different frequency. Perhaps you have a spiritual goal for yourself this Shabbat that might make these next 25 hours a bit different than the week ahead or the week behind. We have a really special evening here in the synagogue. We are celebrating several bar mitzvah. We have our sister congregation rabbis Naama and Gabby with us this evening. And of course, we have Senator Warren in the sanctuary, who's wearing purple in the first row, if you can see her in the sanctuary.
Of her. Purple
Yes.
is very bipartisan.
Very much so. She's speaking this evening on her faith journey. So we will hear her spiritual reflections this evening. So let us head directly into the sanctuary. We don't want to miss what is going on there. And we will see you at the end of services. Shabbat,
Shabbat Shalom.
And that's the whole thing.
So let's now join together. Hopefully you have a blue book underneath your seats. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's great to see you. We're going to now return to the familiar. Let's fill up our sanctuary in song.
Shabbat Shalom. Let's join together.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Our
Shalom.
Zoom community has now joined us along with those in the sanctuary. Those in the sanctuary, you have a very important job, and that is to fill the sanctuary with sound, something we have missed for a couple of years now. And we know that communal prayer is enhanced greatly by the power of voice. So we hope you'll sing out loud this evening. But before we welcome Shabbat, our day of rest, let us give thanks, step aside from the world, turn off the cell phones. Eventually, we're going to put away the monies that we've spent this week. But before we do, we have the children in our midst, those under the age of 13, perform that last act of creation, the gift of tzedakah. I have coins for you. This month, all of our tzedakah is going to Boston Community Pediatrics, an organization founded by one of our members that is doing incredible, incredible work, meeting the needs of so many who can't afford health care in a beautifully holistic way. And so we hope you'll support them. As the children give tzedakah, we ask our adults, if you're comfortable, mask or not mask, if you can look around and introduce yourselves to the people around you, and then we'll begin together. So tzedakah for many children, I have coins, introductions, and then we'll begin together. Hey. You want to do this? I get another box. Oh, great. Let us welcome Shabbat with the lighting of our Sabbath candles on page 120. It's a great honor to call upon Ellie, who becomes bat mitzvah tomorrow morning, and just before services got an epic bat mitzvah picture. And I want to call upon our rabbis from our sister congregation, Or Hadash in Haifa, Israel, Gabi and Naama, if you can come forward as well to light candles along with Ellie. We're so glad you're with us, and will be with us throughout the evening for dinner, and then a program at 8 o'clock addressing the elections in Israel to make Senator Warren grateful for our American democracy. Let us begin together the lighting of our candles, and then we'll say the blessing.
Rabbi, can we get the slide up on the screen here? It's on the chair, Ryan. There we go. Let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Gabi and Naama, Bruchim Habayim, we're so glad you're with us for Shabbat. And Ellie, from our whole community, we say,
Mazel tov.
having welcomed Shabbat, let us welcome the Sabbath bride with the joy As though it were a wedding this evening, we welcome the Sabbath bride into our hearts, into our souls. Lecha Dodi, the words are on the screen.
And I've put Rabbis Gabi and Naama on the spot and asked them to join me. So let's all raise our voices with this familiar melody.
Page 138.
Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha.
Protect and preserve this single command.
Hishmi'anu el amiucha. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litfilah lecha Dodi. Likat kala. Go a little bit faster. Enei Shabbat nekabela lecha Dodi. Likat kala. Enei Shabbat nekabela לקראת שבת לכבדך כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם בזכר סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קלה Enei Shabbat nekabela.
Fifth stanza, awake, awake.
Hitoreri, hitoreri.
Shine, awake and sing.
כי באורek כולי אורי, אורי, אורי. שיר דברי כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה לך דודי. לקראת קלה בעיני שבת נקבלה יא אלי יא לילה יא לילה
So as is our custom, if you're able, we now rise and face the rear of the sanctuary as though we are welcoming in the Sabbath bride.
בואי ושלום, עצרת בעלה.
Come to us in gladness.
גם
Come in joy.
בשמחה ובצהלה.
To our people,
תוך אמוני
we welcome you, the Sabbath.
עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. הולך דודי לקראת קלה. או בני שבת נקבלה. הולך דודי לקראת קלה. פני שבת נקבלה. פני שבת, פני שבת, פני שבת נקבלה.
Continuing with the call to worship, these ancient words recited in the temple centuries and centuries ago. Page 146, Baruch. Let's all be seated as we continue with the words of Shema Yisrael, biblical words that mean listen, O Israel. Listen to the voice within. Listen to the still small voice that commands us to deeds of social justice, to the repair of our world. And the way we get in touch with God's voice is through the gift of Torah. And so we have a blessing called Ahavat Olam. We introduced a new melody last week that was composed by American Jewish royalty. You didn't know there was American Jewish royalty. Well, American Jewish royalty is found on Broadway when it comes to Jewish music. And so Ben Platt, actually, who's a very dedicated member of the Jewish community, composed this melody with his brothers, and we've adopted it. I think it's really beautiful, talking about God's love for us. And so let's join together. It's pretty simple.
Page 150. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. It's going to repeat. Let's see if we can try that as one community. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta.
God's love for us comes from a life of meaning, of purpose.
Al Kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu kumeinu nasiach bechukech v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed.
And that purpose is found in serving others and serving our world. We experience God's love.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. One more time, now that we really know it. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael,
continuing with the word Shema Yisrael.
Shema.
Shema
Yisrael.
Listen.
Adonai Eloheinu.
God is all, God is everywhere.
Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed.
And through words of Torah, may we bring a world that is complete, that is in a place of shalom, of wholeness. And so that is what we pray for, a world that is one and should be celebrated with the song at the sea in our tradition, the words Mi Chamocha, which can be found on page 158. Let's join with the cantor. Who is like you, O God, who can create a world along with us of wholeness, of perfection.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai.
These words from the book of Exodus.
Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot osef
As the Jews crossed the sea to the promised land.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha nedar
Through the storms, through the mud.
nora tehilot osef
One step at a time, they arrived.
Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? Malchutzecha ra'u vanecha bokei hayam livnei Moshe uMiriam ze'eli anu ve'ameru
Through the journey, may we arrive at this time.
Adonai Imlok le'olam vaed. Who is like you? Adonai. Who is like you? Who is like you? Who is like you? ונאמר כי ברא אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Hashem.
גאל ישראל.
And together we say, Amen. So several years ago, I was preparing to lead our congregation's Passover Seder in the community gathering space, and I noticed our temple members, Paul and Joanne Eggerman, walk through the doors. And they quietly took their seats with everyone else in front of the matzah and horseradish and gefilte fish. And then I noticed sitting right next to them was Elizabeth Warren and her husband, Bruce. And so I walked over to the table and I said, Senator Warren, I'm Rabbi Sissenwein. Would you like to say anything to our congregation? And she simply said, no, it's not necessary. Unusual for a politician, but in all honesty, she said, I'm with my grandchildren, and I'm here to observe and explore the themes of the Passover Seder, and I just wanted to be here. And so I just welcomed her and continued with the Seder. But inside, I kind of wanted her to address our congregation. And so I am glad that she is here this evening for when Paul called a couple of months ago and said, Elizabeth would really like to just come to services and pray with us. No need for her to say anything, just wanted to let you know. I'm going to bring her to a service. I said, can she speak? But not about politics, but about spirituality. What brings us to Temple Beth Elohim? What makes us tick? And I'm really glad she said yes. And so tonight, it is a great honor to welcome one of our elected representatives, Senator Elizabeth Warren, to our congregation, a woman who has served our Commonwealth for nearly 10 years as our senator, speaking truth to power, just as Moses did, and we read about during that Seder a few years ago. And we, a congregation of over 4,000 individuals, deeply dedicated to the health and security of our nation, are glad to welcome her and her husband today. As we continue to heed the biblical call to welcome the stranger, for as you know, just in the past few years, we've welcomed families from Syria and Afghanistan and Central America and the Ukraine. We embrace the values to care for the poor with TBE Table, serving hundreds of meals every month, collecting everything you can imagine for those in need. We are a congregation uplifting the downtrodden, mentoring prisoners, fighting for reproductive justice, caring for the environment, combating hatred, working for responsible gun legislation, ending racism and anti-Semitism, of course. We are a congregation that supports Israel, fighting for a just and democratic nation, living peacefully with its neighbors. And we dream of an America that will live up to its promise, the promise that drew our ancestors to this great land. From Russia and Poland and Germany and Egypt and Iran, from all of those places from which our congregants come from, who came here as Jews for a free and democratic nation, the nation for which we are so grateful. And so, on behalf of all of us, I want to say to Senator Warren, we are so glad you're with us today for Shabbat to celebrate. We're thrilled that you're able for a few minutes to share with us. And so I'd like to move this away and invite you onto the bima to sit with us more casually so that, perfect. And we would love you to join us on the bima. We're casual here.
Okay.
Wherever, why don't you go here? Fewer steps is probably a good idea. So I am thrilled you're here.
Shabbat Shalom.
So I thought it would be fun to play a game to just kind of break the ice. I'm going to mention the name of a politician. And you can share your reaction to that name. Tell us your honest feelings, whatever comes to mind. And the name is Elizabeth Warren.
Gratitude. There's the word. I am so grateful to be here with you, but I'm so grateful for so much in my life. I'm grateful for my sweet husband who's here. I always say, if I had invented him myself, I would not have done as well. I am grateful for children. I am grateful for friends like Paul and Joanne, grateful for so many, but also grateful for having opportunities in my life to be able to serve. I've been a teacher all my life. I started out with special needs kids, eventually taught law kids, and never in a million years thought I'd go into politics. And yet, it has been just an expanded opportunity to get in there and fight for things I believe in and actually watch the needle move. And I'm grateful beyond measure for these opportunities.
Beautiful.
So that's my one word.
Thank you.
There you go. And like a politician, I added about 400 behind it. So I have become a politician, I think, in that sense. This is shocking. I think the first time I met you, I just still didn't get it. Yeah. You know, you said, "Do you want to speak?" And I said, "No, I just came for the food," you know. Yeah.
Very becoming, I should say, actually. Can you share a little bit about your faith backgrounds that may even inform you in your work in Congress?
So I'll tell you a story. So I grew up out in Oklahoma, grew up in the Methodist church. My mother was a Sunday school teacher, went to church every Sunday, vacation Bible school, all the things you do in the Midwest if you're a Midwestern. We have another Okie over here, am I right? Ponca City. I got married at 19, had babies, I dropped out of college. It's a whole long, complicated story. But I ended up down in Missouri City, Texas, just outside Houston. And I have two little ones, and I am a brand new law professor. I am a baby law professor. I'm not yet 30 years old. And I am excited about this. I'm learning to teach. It means an enormous amount to me. And I go to Missouri City Methodist Church. That's just, I naturally am at the Methodist church closest to where I live. So I'm going there. I go all summer, and it gets to be fall. And one day, the pastor comes up to me, and he says, Liz, because that's what everybody in Texas, they can't make their way around a name like Elizabeth. So he says, Liz, he said, we'd like you to teach fifth grade Sunday school. And I said, no, not doing that. I taught 4 to 6-year-olds. I teach law students. I am not taking on fifth graders. They are too tough for me. And he said, really? He said, we have an opening. We really need you to teach fifth grade Sunday school. And I said, I really can't do this. So he stays after me and finally says, I'm begging you here. He said, I've had 2 teachers quit 2 weeks in a row. And he said, all we're asking for is just you take them for 50 minutes and nobody gets hurt. Low bar. And so I, with some trepidation, took this on, and it was truly every bit as bad as I expected. Those children were horrible. They were like record-breaking. In the space of the first couple of weeks I had them, I get scissors out for arts and crafts. They end up cutting each other's hair. I ended up with paint, and they all end up blue. A bunch of the boys climbed out the window, and I just lost a whole group in the middle of Sunday school. So I'm thinking, this is not working. Okay, there's one thing I know how to do. I know how to teach law students because I'm a really good Socratic teacher. I thought, I'm sitting these folks down and doing this Socratically. So I sit them all down the next Sunday, and I hand out a little sheet, and it's got a story. And the story's Noah. It's the kids' version. So I say, all right, everybody, read this story because I'm going to start asking questions. And so they read the story, and there's, a lot of fidgeting and so on. But finally, they kind of make it through, and you can tell most of them are read. I said, okay, so I said, story about Noah. How do you think Noah felt when he heard God? And, there's the silly answers. And then there's maybe he thought he was going crazy. Maybe he thought it was a talking tree. And we just kind of walked through, what does it mean to hear from God? And actually, this is the first Sunday that I have them that nobody gets hurt, and nobody cuts their hair, and nobody does all these other outrageous things. So week by week, I come in with a little story and just ask a question, and then just keep asking another question and another question. And one Sunday, we're into the question about giving and what it means to give. We're talking about charity. It's a hard concept, actually. It's not what's demanded of you, it's what you do. And so we're trying to draw this out. And one of the kids says, well, this is about how we treat each other. And I thought, I can run with that. I said, so what is it we owe to each other? And one little boy says, don't put boogers in my brother's food. Note to self, do not eat at their house. And they walk through, don't beat up on your little sister. They're working through the 5th grade stuff. And there's a kid in the group, kid named Jesse, and he's a little bigger than the other kids. He's very quiet, almost never participates. And Jesse finally leaned in, and he said, everybody gets a turn. And I thought, you hit it, Jesse. That's what we're trying to learn here, is how we treat each other, and at the heart of it is, everybody gets a turn. And that we believe that's true for the special needs kids I started out teaching. We believe it's true for people when they get really old and are alone. We believe it's true for people who are born under really difficult circumstances, people who have had some terrible things happen in their lives. And that the thing we owe to each other is the opportunity. The everybody gets a turn. And a big part of my life, after the time with these kids, was about kind of returning to the basics. I think of spirituality as part of it is about centering yourself, your relationship with God. But a big part of it is our relationship with each other, and that it has to have a moral foundation. And the amazing part is, once you find it and kind of hang on to it and can keep it in sight, most of the other stuff is not very hard. You sort of know what you're supposed to do. And the only hard part is reminding yourself to get out there and do it sometimes. But that's it for me.
So I want to follow up. We're always seeking to grow as individuals. And how do you think you've grown since you entered the Senate as a person, as a public servant?
I've had so much more opportunity to hear than I had before. I taught law for 25 years, and gosh, talk about a great job. You get to study the things you're interested in, and you got lots of smart students and other faculty, and you get to build the life you want. But it's also got a narrower dimension to it than I ever understood. Becoming senator, I'm a senator for everybody in Massachusetts, including the many, many people who did not vote for me, including the many, many people who said ugly things about me, and still do. My job is still to be their senator. It is, and the consequence of that is that I end up hearing things about the world and about people's living in the world that I never had. In fact, part of it, the irony that I would be here to talk about this, the first, Codels are a big deal when you're in the Senate. That's just short for congressional delegation. Took me about a year to figure that out. But congressional delegation, that I went to Israel. But I didn't do it the standard way. The standard way is to go because AIPAC takes you. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go for a much longer time and be able to map out a lot of different kinds of meetings when I was in Israel. I'd never been to Israel before. And I was there, I think, just shy of 2 weeks, which I realized you can't learn a country in 2 weeks, but at least you get to see a lot. And Bruce was able to come with me for the second half when classes were out. And there's just it's one of a million examples that I could think of. It's, what does it mean to live in a world where you look up and see just over that horizon where people would want to hurt you and not want you to be there and could do great harm to you and your family? What does it mean to live in a desert that by your own determination you've brought to life? What does it mean to live in a space that has a history that doesn't go back 100 years? Remember, I grew up in a place where it was not even a state until 1907. Not even 400 years, but that literally goes back for thousands of years, and that the stories you tell of yourself are stories of people of great tragedy and great bravery and wrenchingly hard decisions that date back forever and that inform who you are and who your children are. And I use that as just one example. It's being senator, the table has gotten so much wider for me than it ever was. The aperture, the horizon, the vision. And so it informs things that I have to prioritize. It informs how I spend my time. It changes how I think about everything from prenatal and child care through home health care and seniors. We can put it in policy terms, about how we think about immigration policy now, about how we think about what it means to build this nation of people who are different from each other, who are not all blood kin, who don't all look alike. And again, I am grateful for the opportunity to have that much expanded vision. And with it comes much more responsibility for the things I believe we need to do as a nation, and what I think is my job to pick up parts of that and fight for it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I want to be sensitive to time, and I have a
I'd
couple
talk
more
forever.
questions.
Yeah.
No.
I'm learning.
And I also want to keep this about spirituality, but I feel the need to ask about anti-Semitism.
Oh, yes.
Because the Jewish community is experiencing a sense of vulnerability like we haven't experienced in a very long time. And historically, when there are populist movements, usually the Jews lose in the end. So can you address how we as a nation can combat what we're seeing today, or at least what the Jewish community is feeling today, in sense of this deep vulnerability with the increase in anti-Semitism?
I am deeply shocked by the normalization of anti-Semitism in this country over the past 2 years, 4 years. I'm not naive enough to say we were in America of no anti-Semitism. I'm not there. But there were things that people just didn't say in polite company. There were just places this didn't go. And now it's not only that it's there, it's that it's taking on a virulence, it's taking on a life that, to me, seems far more deeply threatening. And I struggle with what can I do? This cannot be a battle to beat this back. This cannot be a battle that is left to Jews and say this is someone else's problem. This has to be a battle, as Joe Biden likes to say, for the soul of our nation. And that means we all have to be in that fight. But I want to do it right. I want to be guided. I want to understand it. And yet part of this is you just got to trust your instincts on it, and you got to call out what's wrong is what's wrong. You know, there are places right now, I get it. I work in the United States Senate, and that means I work with some people I disagree strongly with on policy matters. Nope, not there. But there are some things that you cross certain lines about anti-Semitism, about racism, about attacks on individuals, that we just have to call it out and say, if I can't work with you, then I just can't work with you. And my view is that's on you. But there are some lines we cannot cross. And I worry sometimes that those of us who are very strong in the social justice movement, those of us, we're trying not to make this political, but who are Democrats and say, you know, we want to be open-minded, it's about getting things done. Yeah, it's about getting things done, but it's also standing up for some principles where you just say, no, I cannot work with someone who crosses those lines. And I cannot just say being a Republican, being a Democrat is just the same. And again, I'm not trying to make this partisan. I'm just saying when you openly embrace anti-Semites, I'm done. I don't want to hear about, but you're a nice Republican. You are supporting a party that supports anti-Semitism, then I'm out. And so I feel a certain anger, and feel like at some point we have to be willing to give voice to that anger and express it. Otherwise, the ugliness keeps growing and does not get enough pushback.
Thanks. Yeah, we hope you'll continue to name it from the right, from the left, wherever we hear it. What would you like to be remembered for?
Being a good grandmother. That's true. That's true. Let me tell you about my grandchildren. They're really cute.
So then let me ask, knowing our time is nearing an end, do you have any Christmas rituals? How do you spend the day?
So, you know, this is one of the things that happens in life, right? I had a ton of Christmas rituals. Like, I baked the cake that my great-grandmother baked. 7 layers, took all day long. Nobody much liked it, but damn, we ate that thing. You know, I cooked, I get out this thing, I play the songs. My daughter is the mother of our 3 grandchildren, and she and her husband, who is from India, live on the West Coast. It does not snow in Los Angeles. You don't get cold weather. We go out to be with our grandchildren, and the rituals have just simply changed. And there's a part of me that remembers that little girl back in Oklahoma and still wants to do some of the same things. And there's a part of me that says, good, you've done the next. So what I'm kind of down to now is Aunt Bee's green Jell-O salad. Not Christmas without Jell-O.
Perfect. Last question, because I know you need to go. I know you have a plan for everything.
Yeah.
So what is your plan for if President Biden doesn't run for a second term?
Oh. But he is.
Well done. Well, I want to thank you for serving our Commonwealth so ably
That's
and
so nice. Thank
serving
you
our
for
nation.
having me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. You're so welcome. Thank you.
We may as well stay standing because we're in the middle of the worship service and we're at a prayer where we typically stand. But I know that Senator Warren does need to leave, and that's why we placed our conversation a little earlier than it would normally be. We're really glad you're with us. So thank you for joining us for Shabbat. Let us as one community now turn to the words of our service. We move from the contemporary to the ancient, but we know that the ancient infuses everything that we do today because we possess an ancient tradition that founds its faith in the Bible, which reads those words, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, which means justice, justice shall we pursue. And the way we pursue justice is by engaging collectively in a community that cares for others, that cares for deepening our work in the world. And so we thank you for being with us. Let's move to these ancient words. Actually, we're not going to move to the Avot yet. We have a prayer for healing and love, our role in the world. And so let's join in a song that we sing here every Friday night, and maybe you'll sing with us, and then we'll continue.
The words can be found on the screens or on page 161. We pray, especially in light of these words that Senator Warren shared, that there be love and understanding among us. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. V'ha'amideinu, Shomreinu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukkot Shlomecha. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. Let there be love, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm.
And continuing with the next prayer, O God, open up our lips so that we may praise your name.
Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Agi Tehilatecha. Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach. Viagi Tehilatecha. Open up our lips that we may praise your name. Open up our hearts so we can feel our pain. Oh, tivta. Viagid tehilatecha. Adonai, sefatai tivta. Viagid tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula livnei b'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidam elach, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue independently with our own private prayers and meditations, especially of gratitude. When you are finished, you may be seated.
We conclude our prayers in our Sidurim or on our own with a prayer for shalom, for shlemut, for wholeness and peace. Page 180, text also on the screens. Oseh shalom bimromav uyaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru Amen. Oseh shalom
from one Debbie Friedman melody to another. So nice to recall such a wonderful musician and spiritual soul. So let us turn our thoughts to those who are in need of healing, whether it be a healing of the body, of the spirit, or of the mind. If you are thinking of someone this evening and would like to raise their name aloud in prayer, we invite you to rise and share their name aloud with us as a community. If you're joining us virtually, the chat is open so that you can include your loved ones in prayer as well. Did we miss anyone?
Let's join together.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
And each week we take time to give thanks for those sacred moments in life, those God-given times, birthdays or anniversaries that occurred during this past week. And so we invite those on Zoom to use the chat room, but those in the sanctuary, if you can share these moments aloud. Any birthdays, anniversaries? Ronnie? Wow, 101 years of mother-in-law. Marty? Your birthday. Happy birthday. Any other Shachiana moments? I have one, that I am in a place where Democrats and Republicans sit respectfully and listen to each other. And I say that in all seriousness. We are a congregation that is diverse, but we continue to welcome public officials throughout the parties in a really beautiful way. And there was only one time, a lot of rabbis wonder how we do it at Temple Beth Elohim. And there was only one time I kind of regretted it because our congregants were going after each other, left and right. And it wasn't Democrat or Republican. It was at a Democratic primary between Hillary Clinton, a Wellesley College graduate, and a new guy named Barack Obama. And I thought we were never going to heal. And we've learned a lot that amidst a time when America is getting increasingly polarized, we need communities that can think deeply together and fight for justice together. So I just want to thank you for being a part of this evening and welcoming our senator for the work she's doing on our behalf. So let us give thanks for community, for those who are brave enough to serve the public, for birthdays, for those little moments that bring us here this evening with words of Shehachianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu ve'egianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu ve'egianu lazman hazeh. We say Amen.
So tonight at 8 o'clock, Rabbis Gabi and Naama from Or Hadash in Haifa will be with us in the sanctuary. We hope you can join us here or on Zoom to learn about the incredible work they're doing in Israel. At 10 o'clock, they will also be leading Torah study. And then at 11, excuse me?
Tomorrow.
Yes,
Not
thank
10
you.
p.m.,
10
10
a.m., I'm
tomorrow.
sorry. 8 o'clock p.m. in here.
I mean,
then
you
go
know,
to bed, go
You're very
home.
dedicated. You're very dedicated.
Then come back to wake up and daven once again at 9 o'clock. And then 10 o'clock, Torah study. And then 11:30, hear more about the relationship that continues to grow between our two communities. At Sunday, we want to invite you at 2 o'clock, a visioning process our community is engaged in called Bonim Shalom. There are sheets on the seats that describe how we're hoping to gather as many voices in our community to help envision our future. So we hope you'll sign up or come, because there are a number of times to come, not just Sunday, but January 11th and the 23rd. There are a number of events coming up. Sunday, 6 o'clock, a Prime Timers Chinese dinner, and so much. But I do want to call your attention to one thing. Tuesday night, we have a really neat opportunity. Many of you remember the raid in Entebbe in 1976, pretty extraordinary moment in world Jewish history when Israeli planes flew to Uganda to rescue the hostages of an Air France plane and lost a soldier, Yoni Netanyahu, who happens to be Bibi Netanyahu's brother. But really a heroic moment made into like 7 films. And one of the soldiers who was in the raid is speaking here about his experience on Tuesday night at 7 p.m., brought by a Gann Academy student from Natick, whose grandparents were one of the hostages held. Also Holocaust survivors who were on the plane who were held. So 7 o'clock Tuesday night, lots of courses, but just read online. The list goes on and on. Let's conclude the service in the sanctuary. Page 586 for Aleinu. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל,
לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות,
ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
turn now
to those who are no longer with us, those who are in our memories, our loved ones whose yahrzeits and anniversaries of their death occur this week, and those we have lost most recently. The chat box is open. Please place the names of those who you are remembering so we can honor them as well. And I would like to read our Temple Shaloshim list, those who we have lost in the past 30 days. Robert Burak, Jay Meltzer, Jules Sack, Carolyn Sundell, and Douglas Tischler. We have been asked also to read the yahrzeit of Belle Kroll, mother of Dr. Arnold Kroll. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, along with all of those who you are mentioning in the chat as well. Let's turn to the words of the Mourners Kaddish as a community. We invite you to rise, whether it is in body or in spirit, to recite these words together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon uvyomechon u'b'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv imru. Amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya l'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mrumav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen.
Hu ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hu ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Thank you, Student Rabbi Ryan. One more announcement that did not get shared in the sanctuary. Next Shabbat, we also have a special week. It is a TGIS Shabbat service. We're going to begin to bring in the holiday of Hanukkah. Of course, Sunday we light our first lights. We are beginning Sunday morning with our Dreidel Dash Festival. Whether you want to run, whether you want to walk, whether you want to volunteer, or whether you want to just show up and eat waffles, please join us. And that afternoon, 4 o'clock, is going to be our Hanukkah concert. The voices of our community, we're dropping an album as well, and we'll light the first candle together. So join us virtually or in person for that. So let us conclude with our Shabbat blessings. Let's see who has a glass of wine or a Kiddush cup nearby. Raise it up. You might just see yourself on our screen. And let's join together in Kiddush. I'll get the page for us, Ryan.
Let's
Here we go.
do it. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Take a sip for all of us. All right, who has a challah so that we can say the blessing over the bread? I see the Metzgers. There we go.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. B'te'amon.
Take a bite. Shabbat shalom, everyone. We'll let you unmute and say hello to one another. Have a great restful Shabbat.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
That was a great melody. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Rhonda.
Shabbat
Nancy.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
It's so much fun seeing everyone.
Shabbat shalom from Uncle David.
Shabbat shalom, Uncle David.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
So she knows me people where, graduate, like what they expect afterwards in general. And she said she's looking forward to meeting you, so she said, tell him how you call up on Monday morning. Try to do it.
Hello, Shabbat shalom.